Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fancy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about Days of Shattered Fate by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the third book in the Tyrant Philosopher's series, and this series has just been an absolute roller coaster ride. Like, I was ambivalent at best to the first book, City of Last Chances, but I absolutely loved House of Open Wounds, the second. And with Days of Shattered Fate, Tchaikovsky gives us a story that, for me, is definitely more on the House of Open Wounds side of the spectrum, with in terms of how great these books are. So, and honestly, House of Open Wounds is a hard act to follow up. So, like, I was pleasantly surprised that Tchaikovsky didn't even try. Instead, what he gives us here is a very different type of story compared to what we've seen in the series so far. So anyway, what is Days of Shattered Fate about? Alkaland is the capital of Usmiat, which is the one of the few remaining grandest nations of the world. It's part of this strip of land called the Successor Coast, and it's like what the Palestinian Empire strives to be. It's one of its ideals, basically, in its own fashion, in terms of its gravitas and its history and that kind of thing. Anyway, so it's one of the few remaining nations that hasn't fallen under the Palestine sway, which is not for lack of trying. Like the Palestine residents in particular, Sage Invigilator Angeli, who we follow in this book, she's actually on her way to a duel to the death with a rival nation's ambassador, and as if that wasn't complicated enough, her new aide just arrived, fresh off the boat, and there's something very sketchy about this aide. So as Gil goes into this fight, and the inevitable sequence of events that begins to unfold with the succession war and all sorts of crazy stuff, she has to be wary of not just the knives in front of her, but the knife at the back of her. So, yeah, that's just a little tease for what you can expect over the course of this novel. So, like I said, like this series is just such a roller coaster, right? And for me, this book, Adrian Tchaikovsky delivers a story that it never quite manages to relent. Like right from the get go, we have this duel, and then we deal with the repercussions of that. Things ramp up straight into a succession war as the Archand he transitions into another state, and that leaves two sons who begin you almost immediately begin fighting for the throne, and things just snowball from there. Um, But what's interesting about this is that Tchaikovsky delivers a very different type of story. Like, that alone by itself is enough for most fantasy novels. Not so for this book. Like, this book is structured similar to how the Sword of Kaigan is, in that the major battle, the set piece that would normally capstone the novel, it actually takes place plumb in the middle of the book. So we have the first act, which is the sequence of events that lead up to the battle. We have the second act, which is the battle itself. And then we have the third act, which is the consequences of that battle and the inevitable sequence of events that happens. So it's a as I did with Sword of Kaigen, it is a brave choice to make, and it is once again a book that rewards. Like, I feel like oftentimes you don't get to see the immediate repercussions of a battle in fantasy, because you almost meet that it happens at the end of a book. Everything is happily ever after until the next book in the series, and by then things have progressed beyond that. This year you deal with immediate repercussions and the fallout and all of that. So it was once again it was just such an interesting. It was just in such an interesting structure to follow that really works well for me. And he couldn't pull this off unless he, like, I don't think I need to say this at this point, but Adrian Tchaikovsky is just such a great writer. Like, this one, it doesn't have it isn't as heavy on the comedy as House of Open Wounds is, but once again we have him just pulling out all his skill to deliver just such a great story. Not just the story itself, but the way it's told to us. Like, there's a lot of humor and snark in the way that descriptions and narration and prose and these kind of things are delivered, that it just really it amplifies your enjoyment of the book itself. Like, why simply state facts when you can deliver them in a much more amusing way. It is kind of the approach that quite a few moments in this book take, and it just works. It just works really well. And that's just the way that this book is written. Everything else about this series, about this book in particular, is top notch. Like, the world building is just crazy. Like, some of the things in here, like, it ranges from the grotesque to the strange to the horrific to the amusing to the generic to the standard. And then we have just this cast of characters who, one and all, not a single one of them is anything approaching normal. Like, these people are all, they're a unique band of miscreants, yeah, under the best of circumstances. Maybe the only one who approaches anything similar to a trope would be one of the sons of the Archon, but his siblings are all anyway, you can read and find out about that. Needless to say, some really amusing character work. Like, these people are going to stick in your brain, and that's just the people. That's not just the people introduced in this book. Like, there are some people who lurk in the background of this book who play parts that you'll recognize. You'll see teases of from previous books, and that's all I'll say about that. We also kind of see a bit of progression from the previous books, not directly, but in terms of how certain threads that we saw started in the previous books, kind of how they managed to develop over time, and what were the repercussions of these things even happening in the first place. And that was interesting to see. But those are like almost like throwaway side notes, you can say. But yeah, like, memorable cast, just an entertaining plot from start to finish, brilliantly told all in all. Like, this was a good book. This was a really good book. This was an entertaining sequel into what's proven to be a roller coaster ride of a series to me so far. Like, I think I was told that this is going to be a 5-book series, and I'm really looking forward to how things play out in the next 2 books. Because so far, everything I guessed about what would happen after City of Last Chances was wrong. When we got House of Open Wounds, I made some guesses there. I was wrong yet again. It seems that with each book, we get a shift in geography, a shift in focus, a shift in characters, with just the only continuous thread being the drive for perfection of the Palestine Empire. So yeah, but I can't get over some of the characters in this book. Like, you have everything from dead cultists to... Okay, I'll leave that for you to read and find out. Needless to say, a really great installment to what's quickly becoming a very fun series to read. Or I should say, at this point, it is a very fun series to read. And yeah. Oh, by the way, this book was an arc, needless to say. So thank you to whoever the publisher is for allowing me to request this. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say of House regarding Days of Shattered Fate, honestly. Just a bang of an installment. If you're a fan of the series, needless to say, definitely one to pick up. And like I said, it's definitely more on the House of Open Wounds side of the spectrum compared to City of Last Chances. So if that one worked more for you, you can expect another entertaining romp here. And yeah, that's all I have to say about Days of Shattered Fate. If you made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.